Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Eric. Happy birthday to you. We asked for a cake with 80 candles, but they said it was a fire hazard. Tommy, start with our first question.
Okay, so the first one is for Lynne. Lynne, what's the least asked question about the Phoenix Lights that we would find most interesting?
The least asked question. You know what? As I was starting to say before, there has not been one report, and this is really important, one report of harm, threat, or abduction associated with the Phoenix Lights phenomenon. And as I was mentioning, these have been around for centuries. These are worldwide. When I first came forward in 2004, and boy, that was a scary situation. And I have to tell you, I had done so much homework for myself as an educator. How couldn't I share it with other people, especially those like myself who knew nothing about this topic, and was so overwhelmed by the positive response, particularly around the world. It's unbelievable how the whole thing has changed from, it was absolutely flares, which is the official and accepted explanation at the time when I came forward in 2004. And it's not just me, it's credible people coming forward, the data getting out there through social media, people having cameras. At the time, they only had those clunky cell phones. They who carries around a camera, and say Hale-Bopp was out in the sky and people were looking, and so nobody really got pictures, very few did. But now they can. Now we have the internet. Now we have social media, where people around the world are seeing similar phenomena, hearing about the Phoenix Lights, and look on YouTube. It blows me away, looking up at the sky and saying, oh wow, there's the Phoenix Lights. And that's pretty cool.
Tommy, go ahead.
This one is for Mr. Jason Martell. Jason, in your opinion, what research focus truly deserves investigation in the near future?
Wow, that's a good one. You know, there are several underwater structures off the coast of Japan, Yonaguni. As I mentioned earlier, there's a city called Dwarka off the coast of India. I think there's a new foray of technology coming in the private sector. Give you an example, NASA has something called synthetic aperture radar. It's a big 747 filled with ground penetrating radar, and they fly over and can find locations that we have yet to unearth. So I think that there are definitely locations all around the world that if we take a closer look, we're going to really start to find, larger pieces of the missing puzzle, possibly beyond civilizations that existed pre-deluge, many thousands and thousands of years ago.
Marshall, let me ask you a question. Interpreted as an atomic blast against Sodom and Gomorrah. What do you think happened then? And what were these flying machines?
Well, if anybody came to visit us, if they really truly were the Anunnaki, they had to come in flying machines to get from their planet to our planet. And then they had to come from the mothership down to the surface and transport themselves around on the surface. And that's where I think the whirlwinds, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, they talk about Ishtar flying around in her whirlwind, which to me was perhaps a description of a helicopter. So they had to have transport to get here. And the evidence of what they left here is all that I can find. My research is based on what I can kick with my foot. I'm a tire kicker. And the stone structures, the monumental architecture that is hard to explain. And I've, as an engineer, have done reverse engineering on these various Pantheon, Parthenon, the Colosseum, for instance. And I've discovered fantastic architectural knowledge that couldn't have existed 2,000 years ago, George. That these people just didn't, the Romans didn't have the technology, the Greeks didn't have the technology, the Egyptians didn't have the technology to create these magnificent structures. Therefore I said, whoop, somebody else had to do it.
What if we're all wrong? And like Michael Cremo says, we're 100 million years old as a species. What if we had high technology back 200 million years ago? And then, of course, every building would be gone by now. It would be rubble and dust. And that calamities occurred on this planet and wiped us out. Example, if we get hit from an X-flare or an EMP, and of course part of my platform is to protect our power grid,
Absolutely.
we're toast. And, civilization will wither away to nothing. Millions of people, billions of people will die, and it'll be gone. What if on this planet, and let's just forget for a moment we've been visited by extraterrestrials, but that on this planet, 100, 200 million years ago, we had advanced civilizations who've been to the moon, who've been to Mars, and something happened and just wiped them out. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Anything is possible you can imagine, George. And I'm kind of, like I say, I want to see the physical evidence of that. Now, we have anthropologists and archaeologists who dig around in the ruins, and they go down through the strata of the dinosaurs, for instance. And the best species this planet's ever had for a run were the dinosaurs. They had 69 million years all to themselves till they got extinguished. But we have evidence of that, George. We can see that. So if this magnificent advanced civilization, which was us, existed, we would find it, I think, digging down, doing core samples through the ice cap or through the ruins where we found the fossil remains of the creatures that inhabited the planet before us. So I'm looking for physical evidence, and I have not found any physical evidence of this civilization that you're talking about.
And some of these dinosaur bones, for example, are tens and tens and tens of feet deep.
Yes.
How did the planet cover them up over time? I mean, in theory, will all this be under 100 feet of rubble and dirt one day?
Yes, we have cataclysmic events that occur on planet Earth. If you go back into history, we once were an ice ball. Everything was frozen solid on Earth, and the only thing that was existing were the creatures that were in the subterranean water. And then a volcanic reaction took place, and it melted the ice cap, and we had a receding ice cap which left moraines from the glaciers and so forth. So we have physical evidence of that. We've had cataclysmic destruction of species. They think that the dinosaurs were wiped out by a meteorite that hit in the Mexican Yucatan, and they found evidence of that. They've gone down there and they've seen the minerals that were made from it, and that the Earth then erupts with lots of particles, and it floats around and it creates an atomic winter, which is what we could experience from Yellowstone. We're facing into, folks, certain calamities that could actually extinguish our civilization. Not only our atomic proliferation, which we could do to ourselves, but there's nature is in an activity we have no control over. If Yellowstone lets go, we've got another catastrophic event. So I look at what the physical evidence is, George, and I have not found any deep
That
down.
would prove that.
Okay.
Tommy, what else we got there?
Giorgio, since it is believed that we are being visited and watched by multiple alien species, what is your theory on their ultimate agenda? Peace and love. Look, question. You heard the question. What do I think is their ultimate agenda? And unfortunately, in this field, there are many of some of my colleagues that have a very sinister view on all of this. And Eric will corroborate me on this, that, sure, there might be something going on, and there's no question that there's something going on. However, that it is a very sinister agenda, that we are the slaves of the extraterrestrials, and that we cannot do without anything without their bidding, or we are doing their bidding and things like that. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea if this stuff is going on or not, but if it is, you have no choice anyway. There's nothing you can do. We can't do anything as a planet. What are we gonna, shoot guns at them? It's like hitting, a steel wall with a pellet gun. and things like this. So, from the stories that I'm familiar with in the ancient world, it was never a story of death and destruction. It was always a story of, do not be afraid, child of man, or child of earth. We are here to help. And we find this saying, don't be afraid, son of man, in all the ancient stories all around the world. So, I personally very much disagree that we were formed as slaves, because I've said this in previous years before, and then actually I have a question for the audience. That, the idea that they came here in order to mine gold, and this is why they came to Earth. This is all very, very fascinating and a very compelling argument. However, if you look at it from a sober scientific perspective as an astrophysicist, then they will tell you that nobody had to come to Earth at all. Because if, and this is the Big Bang really happened the way it did, then every celestial body in the entire universe contains the same amount of gold, contains the same amount of raw materials throughout the universe. So they didn't have to come to Earth to mine for gold. So right there, that to me, and this is just me talking, nobody on this panel, that to me indicates that that part of the story is not true. Because if you have a spacefaring society, they don't have to come to Earth in order to do what they did. So it was something completely else. They were here because of us. They were here because, see, many years ago, Ken Fetterman, you might know him. He is one of the biggest skeptics of our theory. And he, on some TV program many years ago, he was like, so what? The way the ancient astronaut theorists are suggesting this is that some extraterrestrial Peace Corps just went from planet to planet to give developmental aid? Yes, absolutely. This is who we are as a species, even us. We are explorers. He always says that we have this propensity for curiosity. Yes, cats are curious, but after 5 minutes they get bored and they go back to sleep. We, on the other hand, are curious for the rest of our lives. So, we want to go out there and explore. I think that once a civilization has learned to travel from star to star, whether that is by means of nuts and bolts spaceships or something more exotic like portals, I think that any society from a planet that can do this has to have some type of a moral code that by the time they visit another species that is also intelligent, but technologically speaking, they are still primitive, that they will not exploit that society out of a pure moral standpoint. And just because we have not reached that standpoint yet doesn't mean that more societies that have been born or have been around for, let's say, hundreds of thousands of years longer than us, that they haven't figured that out yet. Because good and evil permeates the entire universe. But I think that there's a certain moral code, and this whole idea that we're here, for their taking, it would have already happened a long time ago. So I think we should look at this whole topic from a way more positive perspective than to suggest to everyone how everything is doom and gloom.
Totally agree with you, and that can confirm. When you look at the Phoenix Lights event, as I mentioned, not one person, there wasn't fear, threat, or abduction associated with the Phoenix Lights. On the contrary, to the it was just amazing. People were in awe, in wonder. There was telepathic messages, we're not here to harm you. And the after effect, that's what I found was really, really profound. The after effect, people changed their eating habits to vegetarian, people went into the peace movement, people went into the environmental, it woke them up. It woke them up, it touched people to the core. The Phoenix Lights not only came through as a gentle, non-threatening reminder that we're not alone in the universe. It was purposeful to wake people up, but also to wake each individual up to the positive potential we have as human beings. And when you look at the data, when you talk to the witnesses, it is so profound and so life-changing. so life-changing, very, very important, because here's a case in point, the Phoenix Lights. I mean, we're talking a visitation by something. Again, I don't know what they are, and I wanted to ask the panel, actually, because we talked about interstellar.
Well,
again.
here's the thing about all these sightings in this day and age. You know, the difference between what the ancient astronaut theory suggests, and this is the clear demarcation point, the reason why back in the day our ancestors thought they were being visited by the divine, which they never were, is because not because of their lower intellect. Quite on the contrary, our brains have remained the same over thousands of years now, so nothing has changed in our brain capacity. What has changed is one thing, and that is the understanding of technology. The technological frame of reference from someone 2,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago compared to today, you have to admit, it is the same intellect, the same type of understanding, but you cannot understand it if you don't have a basis in nuts and bolts technology.
Epic of Gilgamesh, which was the first written story, they talk about what happened after the flood. In other words, you can imagine people who survived facing 11 miles deep of mud all over the place. How would they survive? And the fact that the Anunnaki, it says in the Epic of Gilgamesh, decided to help humans survive is a hopeful thing. If they saved us from the flood, they may save us again from ourselves. I think they are benevolent. We are kind of their prodigy, their experiment. I look at it that way, Giorgio. And that they are here to not damage us, but they saved us once, they might save us again. That's my positive spin on the subject.
I think Rod Serling had it right. The book to serve man, it's a cookbook. They're eating us. Tommy, go ahead.
Mr. Eric von Daniken.
Huh? They are eating us?
Let's sing Eric happy birthday.
Happy birthday. How old were you when you knew this was your life's purpose, Eric?
Huh?
Eric, that's God talking
Eric.
to you.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah.
How old were you when you knew this was your life's mission?
Or Eric,
I
he
was
doesn't
about-
see my lips moving, he's panicking.
No, I was around 16. I was a schoolboy, as I said before. 16 when I realized something is completely wrong with my education and my religion. And that's how it all started. By the way, we had this discussion about an earlier civilization and these flying machines. There is a book on the market which nobody knows, it's only in India. It's called Flying Machines in Ancient India, and the author is Professor Dr. Kanjilal. He's a Sanskrit professor. He's somebody who really understands the old Sanskrit. And he mentioned a lot of cases where these flying machines, these vimanas, had come down from the mother spaceship. Of course, the old Indians did not call them mother spaceship. They did not have a name like this. They call it cities in the sky. Now, I asked Professor Kanjilal, but listen, these vimanas, these flying machines, could they not have been done or created by us, by the humans? We made it, our technology. And he said, no, that's all garbage, Eric, forget it. There is not only an evolution in biology, there's also an evolution in technology. You have to evolve something. A technology has to evolve. You have to invent industries, to invent construction, to invent the movement and all these things. And there is no industry, no evolution of technology on Earth for these flying machines. These flying machines always came from outside. They were never produced here, except maybe something like primitive hot air balloons in the past. That's an example. But the flying machines who went to the space, mother spaceships and coming back, they all came from outside. They were not created on our planet by us. So.
Yeah, I have a question for the panel, actually, myself. Clap.
By the way, doesn't Lynn sound like Demi Moore?
She is.
I say that all the
because I'm
time.
so
She does. She's got exactly the same voice.
Thank you. Hey, listen, to be acquainted with Demi Moore, that's okay. First of all, I know that a number of people out here have had experiences with orbs, and for myself personally, and this is what really got me, when they started to implode mechanically right in front of my face, like there was an intelligence behind it, smaller and smaller and smaller to a P, till we didn't see it anymore. but it felt like it was still there. Where did it go? I have a question. We've talked about interstellar and intrastellar travel. What about, and time travel, actually. But what about the interdimensional possibilities?
I'd like to answer time travel right now, please. One of the most frequent questions that I receive, and I'm sure many people here on the panel, is, do I think it's possible that we are the ancient astronauts from the future, that it's us that went back in order to help us or to aid us in all this? And it's at first, at a face value, it's a very interesting question, and of course it's once again a question that plays right into our ego. Well, of course it wasn't ETs, it was us from the future. Well, let me tell you that in all of the ancient texts that I am familiar with, and that's actually a challenge to every single soul here, that the ancient texts that I know only speak that whenever our ancestors asked these beings, where are you from or why are you here, they say that we are from out there and we're here to, just bring you forward.
I confirm this.
They never say, we are you from the future. So I challenge you, if you somewhere from a legitimate text, not from something channeled, please, not from something hearsay or from Wikipedia or something like this, I challenge you to find me a text portion that says, we are you from the future. Until I see this, they are not us from the future. And again, this would once again be so anthropocentric, as in, oh, humans, we, us, we're amazing. We are, but not that amazing.
But George, just a little remark. The same thing happened. I know these texts very perfectly. The humans asked some of these helpers, where do you come from? And in each and every case they say, we came from outside. I confirmed it. But also, just to add this, none of these visitors said, we came from another continent, like Atlantis.
Yeah.
None. They always said we come from outside.
Yeah, they never say we come across from the mountain, or they, say from that mountain range over there. It's always straight with a pointing to the stars.
To reinforce that, Giorgio, in the text, in the translations of the cuneiform tablets, the Sumerians, which was the first known civilization on our planet, say that everything they had was given to them by the Anunnaki. They credit them. We could still be Stone Age. There's no reason why civilization should have advanced to high-rise buildings, airplanes, and cars. We could still be Stone Age unless we were given the advanced technology to become civilized. We would still be...
No, we were not given, we were given the knowledge.
Well, we're given writing and the knowledge, yeah, okay.
Do you two argue all the time?
No, we go on the
Grumpy
same
old
path.
men, him and I.
By the way, I am from the future. And I would like you to know that Giorgio, in the future, got a haircut. He sold his hair on eBay
It's not
and
called a
became a
haircut.
multi-millionaire.
It's not called a haircut, it's called genetics.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Hey Marshall, what is the single most important thing that makes you know that ET life exists?
The physical evidence that I've researched and produced in my books and that Zachariah Sitchin was able to transmit to me. I think as an engineer, I'm a tire kicker. I don't, my daughter is into the channeling and the third world stuff, but I'm a person who wants to touch and feel. And what I've discovered in my research are artifacts, monumental stone structures that I know the technology that it took to build them didn't exist 2,000 years ago. That's my proof. And I keep reproducing pictures of it throughout all my books just to show you things that we could not have done, that somebody else had to do it.
We're going to take a few more questions, and I'm going to have the panelists give us their own little summation, but I wanted to remind all of you, mark your calendar for November 21 and 22 at the LAX Westin Hotel for the Heaven Can Wait Life After Life event. So remember that, November 21, 22. Go ahead, Tom.
So Lynn, we've heard that the star people will come out when enough people ask for them to do so. Do you believe this?
Prove that?
We have heard that the star people will come out when enough people ask for it. Do you believe this?
I do believe in, or know, that we have energies that are so powerful that we're not being told, actually, that positive energies as well as negative energies, okay, they affect everything around us. It's like a pebble in a pond, whether it's that negative thought or deed or positive thought. And I always tell everybody, because one of the things, in fact, I was just invited to the Heaven Can Wait to speak there, which is mostly about near-death experience, because interestingly, a number of witnesses to the Phoenix Lights also had near-death experiences when as children that was reawakened by the mass sighting, and I did too. And I go into it in detail in the book, and it's a fascinating history of where I came from to the Phoenix Lights as well. But the main thing is that these are all connected. Everything is connected, and when you say, as far as energy goes, we are all connected. We talk about atonement, and we know from the entanglement theory that even at a subatomic level, we are all connected. Everything is connected. So when we send out those energies, they are very far-reaching. So in a way, if we're able to raise our consciousness and know that we're not alone in the universe, and know in our hearts and our minds that something is out there, there is an intelligence out there that's just waiting for us to raise our energies, raise our frequencies, our vibrations, our hearts, our souls to a positive place, to connect with them, that hopefully that will happen. And I think that's what they're waiting for.
Thank you. Tom, one more last question.
Mr. Jason Martell, talk a little bit about giants and if you believe they tie in with ancient aliens or if they do not tie in.
Giants. Well, I know there's been a lot of things shown on the internet of excavation sites that show large bones that are human or a large skull. Unfortunately, from my perspective, I have yet to find actual giants. Not that I'm looking for them specifically, but I have seen several actual excavation sites that were photoshopped to make you look like you're seeing large skeletons. I'm sure that there were larger beings in the past, and there are stories from Cyclops to other references of large giants, but I am not specifically of the notion that the Anunnaki were physical giants, even though some of the depictions show the gods seated before the Sumerians, and if the god were to stand up, the Anunnaki, he'd be 8 feet, at least from a visual perspective. But I have yet to actually find evidence to say, in fact, that they were giants. So I'd be interested to see any actual research to show that giants existed.
You obviously haven't been to a Lakers game, have you?
George, 1 second.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to tell you a joke about giants. You see, imagine there are two little houses out in the country, and two housewives are in the garden of their house, and every of the housewives has one of these sprays against insects. They are killing insects on the salad and so on. And these two women came together, and one woman said to the other, "Have you heard yesterday on the radio and on TV, giants have landed on Earth?" And the other woman says, "Giants? This is all nonsense. My husband is a doctor in medicine. Giants are something absolutely impossible." Then the other wife said, "But yes, on TV we saw them. They are 2 kilometers high." And the other one said, "This is all crazy. Just imagine 2 kilometers high bodies. They must have bones which are like a stahl, made out of steel. What about their lung and their blood? A 2 kilometer high being could never exist. This is all garbage." And while these two women are arguing each other, they hear a noise in the ground. He makes ta-tum, ta-tum, ta-tum. And they ask him, "Hey, what is this? An earthquake?" And while they are talking, they see just coming out to the next hill a gigantic head, and then the chest, and the body, and the gigantic being comes over the hill, ta-dung, ta-dung, and he has one of these sprays in his hands, made
You just never know, do you? Eric, tell us a little bit about your events that are coming up.
What event?
Your events that are coming up tonight.
Well, I have a speech this afternoon here at 2:30 in the sanctuary. Now this speech is completely full because it's free of charge and there are only 500 people who can go in there. That's why they asked me here if I could repeat the same speech again at night here. And I do this with great pleasure. So if you don't have room over there, just come back at night. It will be at the 9:30 here, outside. You can still have your bottle of beer with you or whatever. And I repeat the whole story which I said in the sanctuary there. And another little thing just in my favor, I have published so far 37 books. And there is one book which is not existing in the bookstore. It exists only on ebooks, and Amazon ebooks. And this is called Silence Has Ended. That's the only book where I tell things which since decades I never made public. Now I made it public, but only available in Amazon. Silence Has Ended.
Thank you, Eric von Daniken. What great energy. Just great energy. 1:30, okay.
Yes, 1:30 is what? No. Halb zwei, yeah? Yeah, 1:30, you're correct. And in the evening at 9:30. Okay, thank you for your help.
And he's also talking Monday. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, that's another workshop or whatever.
Georgie, how about you?
Sunday and Monday.
What are your plans?
All right, so today in the afternoon after the luncheon, I'm giving a meet and greet Q&A, so join me. I'll ask any questions you may have, and then tomorrow I'll be giving my lecture or workshop. I think it's around 2 in the sanctuary, but you have a program and I know you can read.
Marshall?
I have a workshop Sunday night at 7 p.m. in the Lotus Room, and we'll be reverse engineering these buildings I've been talking about. I'll present you with physical evidence, and we'll be able to interface with each other on how they were built and what the magnificence of these stone architects were.
Mr. Martell.
I'm giving a workshop and a lecture both tomorrow. The free lecture will just be touching on some pieces of ancient technology, showing monuments around the earth. And then I'm going to be doing a workshop tomorrow where I'm literally producing a lecture that's being unveiled for the first time. It's called the Ark of the Covenant. And I'm going to be looking into the ties to show that the Ark of the Covenant doesn't just start with the Jewish Exodus, that it has prominent ties in Egypt and was possibly being used as some type of large energy source.
Lynn, go ahead.
I had my lecture and workshop yesterday, which I'm sorry that you guys weren't attending, which was really, really fun, but I will be at the vendor table with my book, which tells the rest of the Phoenix Light story, and please check out Phoenix Lights Network website. It is packed with information. And tonight I have the honor also of being on a panel for the government cover-up, which I really don't focus on. In fact, astronaut Edgar Mitchell in our documentary and the bonus features does talk about that quite articulately, but I'm at a grassroots level here, and that's my work here, but I certainly will be sharing, because there was definitely a government cover-up concerning the Phoenix Lights and the Arizona mass sighting, so I hope you'll join us tonight.
How do you like this event in May instead of August? Much better? And this idea was just great.
Yeah, George, I actually, that was the question I wanted to ask about. A raise of hands. Who is here for the 3rd time at Contact in the Desert? Okay, who is it for the 2nd time? And first. Nice. Wow. All right, now.
Where have you been?
You first timers. I have a little story for you to tell, and well, it's not a story, it's a fact. Imagine sitting here right now without these covers. 2 years in a row, in August, where it's even hotter, we didn't have these things. So we should all give a big round of applause to the organizers to thank them that they've installed the shades. Thank you. I mean, it was like the 7th circle of hell.
After
So,
80%
this is all very
of them,
nice.
Giorgio, last year 80% of you passed out. Giorgio and I pickpocketed all of them.
Yes. In case you're wondering where your money is, yeah.
Also, a big applause for George. Wasn't he fabulous?
Yeah, but let's have an applause for the panelists. Thank you so much. Lynne Kitei, Jason Martell, Marshall Klarfeld, Giorgio Tsoukalos, and the esteemed Eric von Daniken.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.